Hello, Lee Kreider here with Ultracycling magazine, and we're here to give a memorial to Gerhard Gulewicz, a longtime Race Across America rider and good friend of so many, especially Vic Armijo, who's here with us today. And how are you, Vic?
Doing all right. Doing all right. This is a sad moment. I knew Gerhard ever since his first Ram in 2006, and over the years he started Ram 12 times, finished it fast, finished it 5 times. A distinction I'm not sure he liked too much is he was the fastest rider to never not win Ram. His best year of 8 days and change. Most years would have won, but he was second to Danny Weiss that year, and he came back time and time again, hoping to eventually win it, and sadly he never did. Passed away on the 10th. His son posted an explanation that he'd had a heart attack. Got a message from Christoph Strasser, who said he had understood that Gerhard had just gotten back from a training ride and suffered a fatal heart attack. That was from 2006, Gerhard's first Ram. All the riders were already near the stage waiting to be introduced. Gerhard wasn't there until the last moment when he pulls up in a Mustang convertible. And he had a good race. He rode to a strong seventh place that year. Another thing I remember about that year is we were in Ohio, in the last 400 miles or so of the race, and Gerhard's crew came up to the motorhome that I was driving and was asking, "Where's Tinker? Gerhard wants to quit, and we would like him to talk to Tinker." With the follow card and phone communication back and forth, we arranged that, and Tinker met him on course, talked to him for a little bit, told him basically, "You've come this far. If you quit now, you'll never forgive yourself." And of course, he did get back on course and actually finished about 3 hours ahead of Tinker. That was from 2007. He had a good race that year. He got third, time of just over 9 days. Again, that's a time that in a lot of years could have won, but ahead of him he had Jure Robic and Wolfgang Fasching. That photo was taken just outside of Flagstaff, and that was so typical of Gerhard. He was either smiling and talkative, engaging, or as we see here, just staring straight ahead. He barely even looked over and acknowledged we were there. He was someplace else in his head that afternoon. A little later in the race, though, in Monument Valley, we pulled alongside of him, and then he was very talkative. Okay, this is from Ram 2007. He got third that year behind Jure Robic and Wolfgang Fasching. This was taken, probably 50 miles or so from Kayenta. We'd passed him, and then as we got into Monument Valley, up in off the road up into the desert a little bit, we saw some brake lights, and we stopped and looked, and we realized, well, that's Robic's motorhome. Robic must be in there napping. And so we pulled in not too far from the motorhome and got some, probably 2.5 to 3 hours later, off in the distance, we hear European techno music. And then we see the lights as Gerhard's going by. And within minutes, the lights in the motorhome came on, and then they put Robic back on course. That was taken outside of Flagstaff, Arizona. That was kind of typical of Gerhard in that you see there, he's just staring straight ahead. He hardly even glanced over and acknowledged that we were there. He was either completely in his head, but other times he was talkative. Later in the race, he talked with us a little bit. That one was in 2009. That was a year he had his fastest finish, under 9 days, an 8 day and change finish. And this photo, you really can't tell too much from the photo, but he is having trouble even staying upright. This was in near Walsh, Colorado. And the winds were just blowing him all over the place. And he was doing his best just to go walking speed. But, slow is faster than stop. And that's what you got to do sometimes in these races to finish in a respectable time. And, that was his best year when he got second behind Danny Weiss. Number 7 was from 2011. He was on a really good pace that year. Definitely was on track for a top 3, if not better. And he got as far as Grafton, West Virginia, mile 2,674, when they pulled him off with Shermer. He'd been fighting it for a while, and he couldn't comfortably look ahead. It's sad that he was still was on a 14-mile-an-hour average when they pulled him out. To have gotten so close and then be pulled out of it had to have been pretty hard for him. The one with his van and his motorhome and everything, that was really impressive. By that point, he had really established himself as an ultracycling star. He was getting fantastic sponsorship. His equipment, his crew, everything was top notch. It was all down to him, and of course, he got some great results thanks to his cycling ability, not lacking in what it needs to do the job. That was taken in Monument Valley in 2012. He got third that year, 9 days, 11 hours. And in that year, a few miles after I got this photo, we pulled alongside him and talked with him for a little bit. And interesting is his crew often didn't want him to know how anybody else was doing. They just had him on his pace, stressed, you just do your pace and let us worry about it. But he would often come to us media folks to try to get him some information. And what he wanted to know that day is, where is Yuri? How is Yuri doing? As would usually happen when the crew would see that he was talking to us, suddenly there's German coming over the loudspeaker, and he'd shrug and say, "Hey, I gotta go." And that's Gerhard and his crew at the finish. You can see very happy people. That he finished in the middle of the night, which is often the case with Raam. You finish in the middle of the night, and in those instances, the only the only spectators are your crew and maybe a few people wandering home from the bars. That was taken in Kansas in 2011, or the two of those. One was taken in 2011, one was taken in 2010, at practically the exact same spot, within a mile of each other. And the reason I ran this one is the contrast. You see, in 2011, he's looking fairly fresh, looking good. 2010, he was a zombie. He was just looking so beat. That's how it goes. Circumstances change. You learn a little bit, and from one year to the next, the same spot on the course can just be dramatically different. That was taken just outside of Monument Valley, Mexican Hat area. Just before that, him and Marco Ballo was the lead rider, had been riding alongside each other. And it was early morning, kind of had a little chat. How's your race going? You're looking good, blah, blah. And then Marco shifted up a gear and pulled away from him. That year, he DNF'd again with Shermer. We saw him just before his DNF. We saw him in Mays, Kansas. He made it as far as El Dorado, Kansas, 1,600 miles into the race. And when we saw him in Mays, he was already having issues. They'd taken a Pringles can and attached it to his stem, and he had his chin resting on it. It seems like they tried to give him a break and then get him back on the bike, because we saw that his tracking just didn't move for the longest time, and he didn't call in a DNF, and headquarters didn't know what he was doing. And then finally he called in that in the interest of safety that he was pulling out, and actually he never finished. That was, there's Gerhard and myself taking a day or two before the Raam start. That was his 10th Raam as a racer and my 10th on the road. I crewed for Tinker that first year and was working for Raam Media the following years. And, we gotten to know each other and shared a little moment of each of us flashing our number 10s. And that was taken in Oak Creek Canyon, which outside of Sedona, which of course is part of the course. It was part of the course, and then it wasn't for a number of years. Now it's back to being part of the course. The riders get ferried through there. It's just too narrow to have our racers blocking, traffic. And well, we're glad that it's back. But he was having a good race up until then. When we saw him all along the way, he was looking good, looking strong, was in good spirits. Another one taken that year. That was a bittersweet moment. Of course, in Raam 2015, before La Vita, Colorado, Gerhard was struck by a motorcycle, took him out of the race. He didn't finish. And that was the year that his son, the young man seated to across from him, his son was on Raam with him. They had all of their arrangements set for them to go home from the finish in Annapolis that year. So they took the motorhome and followed the race and cheered on the racers and met with me and with you there in Ohio and chatted for a bit. Even with the DNF, he was just so philosophical. I mean, he looked at me and he said, "You know what the best part of this is?" And I'm thinking, "What's the best part? You got hit by a motorcycle and you got taken out of Raam." He says, "The best part, I can do it again."
Right. And I was there, Vic, and I have a little bit of video I'll stick in here, about 30 seconds of him being philosophical.
That is Gerhard about to take a water hand off from his son Julian. That's in Utah, about halfway between Montezuma's Creek and Cortez. That was such a good experience for his son to have been along and seeing his father in action and seeing how revered he was by the racers and to have been a part of it. That's Gerhard's longtime crew chief doing a water handoff. Like I said, Gerhard never finished again. 2017 was his last try. That's when this one was taken, and he'd had breathing issues in 2016. For all of the ups and downs, not so great years at the end when he wasn't able to finish Raam after repeated tries, this is the Gerhard I really want to remember. You know, he was always so happy to be at the start and most of the time to be in the race. You know, there's that smile there, just tells it all. So many of the racers, when they're sitting on the start line, they're just stoic and solemn, and you can see the fear of what they're about to start in their face. But not Gerhard. He was always smiling, engaging, and looking forward to the 9 or so days that lay ahead of him. We'll miss you, Gerhard. You were a great one.